Have you ever looked at someone you love, your mom, your dad, maybe a grandparent, and felt like something was just different? Not a huge change, not something you could even put your finger on right away. Maybe they're sleeping a little more, eating a little less. Maybe they repeat a story you heard just last week. Or they seem more quiet, like their light's dimming just a little. You brush it off at first, don't we all? It's just age, you think. They're just tired. But deep down, something whispers, what if it's more? You know what I'm talking about? That gnawing feeling in your gut. That voice in your head saying, pay attention. Because sometimes the people we love start to slip, slowly, silently, right in front of us. And we don't want to see it. We don't want to admit that maybe, just maybe, something serious is happening. And the hardest part? They don't say anything. They don't complain. They don't want to be a burden. So those small signs, they go unnoticed. Or worse, ignored. Until one day, it's too late. A fall, a hospital visit, a diagnosis you never saw coming. But what if I told you it doesn't have to be that way? These small shifts, those little nothings we dismiss, can actually be early red flags. Quiet, hidden health issues that slowly wear the body down, and that, if left unchecked, can keep someone from ever reaching their 80th birthday. The truth is, many of these signs are preventable, manageable, but only if we know what to look for. That's why this video is so important. Not just for you, but for the people you love most. Because by the end of this, you're going to understand the 5 hidden health reasons so many older people struggle to live beyond 80. Reasons most doctors don't mention in a checkup. Reasons families rarely recognize until the damage is already done. But you'll see them. You'll know. And that knowledge, it can change everything. So before we dive in, do me one favor. If you've ever looked at someone you care about and felt that quiet fear, like something might be wrong, even if you can't name it, drop a comment below that says, I'm here. Let me know you're paying attention, that you're ready to show up for the people who showed up for you all your life. And if you want more heartfelt, real talk about caring for our aging loved ones, hit that subscribe button. This is elderly care, and you're exactly where you need to be. Let's start with something most people don't notice until it's already taken too much. Loss of muscle mass. Doctors call it sarcopenia, but you've seen it in real life. Think of your uncle, the one who used to carry groceries with one hand and fix things around the house with the other. He was strong, capable, always moving. But lately, he fumbles with buttons, struggles to open a jar. He moves slower. Maybe he even fell once, and you told yourself it was just bad luck. But it wasn't. See, after we turn 50, our muscles naturally start to shrink, slowly at first. But for some people, that decline picks up speed. And it doesn't just mean weakness. It means the body loses its support system. Muscles aren't just for lifting and walking. They help keep your balance. They keep your organs in place. They even play a role in your immune system. When muscle vanishes too quickly, older adults become fragile, prone to falls, prone to infections, prone to a slow, invisible kind of collapse that nobody talks about. And here's the thing, we're taught to think it's normal. They're just getting older, people say. They're not as strong as they used to be. But this isn't just aging. This is a warning. And what makes it worse? We often respond the wrong way. We let them sit more, do less. We think we're helping by letting them rest. But inactivity speeds the decline. So what can you do? You don't need to send anyone to the gym. Start small. Encourage light resistance activities. Using soup cans, elastic bands, or even body weight. Gentle chair squats, water aerobics, seated leg lifts, movements that build strength without pain. And make sure they're getting enough protein every single day. Not just meat, eggs, yogurt, beans, even smoothies can help. Because strength isn't about muscles. It's about dignity, independence, the ability to get out of a chair on your own or climb in a bed without help. But it's not just the body that gets weaker over time. Sometimes it's the heart, quietly, steadily, growing too tired to keep up. And when that happens, the signs can be even harder to spot. Let's talk about silent heart decline. Picture your aunt. She used to walk her dog every morning, rain or shine. A mile, maybe 2. But now, she says she's just tired. She doesn't walk as far. She stops to catch her breath by the time she hits the mailbox. At first, you don't think much of it. She's getting older, right? Everyone slows down eventually. But here's what most people miss. The heart doesn't announce its struggles with pain or drama. It whispers. It sends hints, subtle ones, like chronic fatigue, like swelling in the ankles, like a new cough that doesn't go away. These signs are often the earliest stages of congestive heart failure. And sadly, they're dismissed far too often, even by doctors, even by families. People think it's just normal aging, but it's not. The heart is a muscle too. And when it's too weak to pump efficiently, everything slows down. Oxygen doesn't circulate the way it should. Fluids build up. The body begins to drag. But here's the hopeful part. This decline doesn't have to be a death sentence. If caught early, it can be slowed, even stabilized. Start by paying close attention. Are they getting more tired than usual? Are their socks leaving deep marks on their legs? Do their shoes feel tighter? If you notice these things, bring them up. Kindly, gently, ask about an echocardiogram. It's non-invasive. No surgery, just images of the heart that can reveal things a stethoscope never will. You don't need to be a doctor to save someone's life. You just need to care enough to see what others ignore. But sometimes, even when the body seems okay, the mind starts sending signals that something deeper is wrong. And those are the signs we fear the most, the ones we try not to talk about. But we have to, because silence only helps the illness, never the person. Let's talk about something that hits closer to the heart than anything else, because when it begins, it doesn't just change the person you love, it changes how they relate to you. Cognitive drift, the slow fading of memory, judgment, and awareness. And most times, it starts with something so small, you laugh it off. Picture this. Your mom calls you on Tuesday. She tells you a story about her neighbor's new dog, how it barks too loud and digs up the flowers. You smile. You listen. The next day, she calls again, same story, same details, word for word. By the third time in 1 week, you chuckle to yourself. She's just a little forgetful. But then, she forgets your birthday. She mixes up your child's name. She asks you a question, then asks it again 5 minutes later. And that's when the laughter turns into something else. Worry. See, what most people don't understand is that memory doesn't vanish overnight. It slips, quietly. And what we call just being forgetful can actually be the earliest sign of something deeper, mild cognitive impairment. This isn't full-blown dementia. Not yet. But it's the stage where the brain begins to lose sharpness, where judgment weakens, where the ability to plan, to make decisions, to keep track of time starts to wear thin. And sadly, many families don't catch it until it's too far along, because no one wants to admit it. Not them, not you. We think, oh, she's always been a little scatterbrained. Or, he's just tired, he'll bounce back. But the truth? These changes are the brain's quiet cry for help. Now, that doesn't mean you panic. It doesn't mean you jump to conclusions. But it does mean you act. Because the earlier you recognize it, the better chance you have to slow it down. Here's what helps. Routine. Our brains love predictability. Waking up at the same time. Meals at the same hour. Simple rhythms create mental stability, mental stimulation. And no, I don't mean complicated brain games or flashcards. I mean music, crossword puzzles, old photos, family stories, activities that engage memory and emotion together. Reduce multitasking. Too many inputs overwhelm a fading mind. Turn off the TV during conversations. Simplify instructions, one step at a time. And above all, be patient. This is the moment to lead with love, not frustration. To meet them where they are, instead of dragging them back to where they used to be. Because when the mind starts to drift, what they need most is someone who stays anchored. Someone who listens, repeats without judgment, laughs without pretending, and loves steadily, even as things change. But cognitive decline isn't the only quiet change happening behind the scenes. Sometimes the danger lies even deeper, in the gut, the place we rarely think about until it starts to affect everything. Energy, mood, strength, even immunity. It's the next hidden reason so many older adults struggle to make it beyond 80. And it starts with something as simple as a skipped meal. Let's turn our attention now to something that seems so simple, so everyday, that we almost always miss it. Digestion. We don't talk about it much. Not around the dinner table. Not at the doctor's office unless there's a big problem. But inside the gut, a whole second world is operating. And in older adults, that world can start to shut down long before anyone notices. Maybe this sounds familiar. Your father, the man who used to clean his plate no matter what was on it. Meatloaf, spicy chili, second helpings of dessert. Now barely touches his food. He says he's not hungry, or his stomach feels funny. You notice he's lost a little weight, but when you bring it up, he waves it off. Food doesn't sit right with me anymore, he says. Or maybe he starts skipping meals altogether. Not because there's no food, not because he's too busy, but because something just feels off. And here's the truth, it probably is. As we age, our entire digestive system begins to slow. The stomach doesn't empty as quickly. The intestines don't move food along with the same rhythm. Enzymes, the ones that break down our meals into nutrients, become less active. And the result? Bloating, discomfort, constipation, that awful heavy feeling after just a few bites. But it's not just about feeling full. What's happening on the surface often reflects a deeper issue: inflammation. The gut lining becomes more fragile with age. Certain bacteria, the ones we rely on for balance, begin to vanish. And when the gut is inflamed, even just a little, it stops absorbing what the body desperately needs: nutrients, vitamins, hydration. That's why digestive issues in older adults are about more than appetite. They're about strength. They're about energy. They're about resilience, mood, even immunity. But here's where things get misunderstood. Most families think they're just being picky, or worse, they're getting depressed. So they try to coax them into eating more, offer heavier meals, or push through the discomfort. And that can make it worse. Because a compromised digestive system doesn't want a big plate of steak and potatoes. It wants gentleness. It wants food that's easy to digest. Food that soothes rather than overwhelms. So what can you do? Start by shrinking the portion sizes, but increase the frequency. 3 big meals a day might feel like too much, but 5 or 6 small snacks. That's easier, less pressure, less discomfort. Introduce probiotic-rich foods, yogurt, kefir, fermented vegetables. Not too spicy, not too raw, just balanced. And focus on gentle fiber. Stewed fruits like prunes or pears. Cooked oats, soft vegetables. These support regular movement without straining the system. Hydration matters too. Warm fluids, herbal teas, broths do more than water alone. Most of all, listen. If they say they don't feel well after eating, don't force it. Don't brush it off. Instead, tune in. Track patterns. Ask questions gently. Because when digestion breaks down, the rest of the body follows. And we're not just talking about the gut here. We're talking about the whole foundation of health. But now, let me bring your attention to something that hides in plain sight. Something that doesn't come from within the body, but from the space they move through every day. It's one of the most overlooked threats to longevity. And it doesn't start with illness. It starts with a stumble, a rug, a step, a patch of floor that used to feel steady, but now feels dangerous. You said it a dozen times. Grandma, be careful. Watch your step. Don't forget about that rug. It's always in the way. And every time, she nods, smiles, says she's fine. But then it happens again. She stumbles, trips on the same edge of carpet, bumps into the same hallway wall. Maybe she catches herself this time. But each time, your heart sinks a little lower. Because you know a fall at her age isn't just a bruise. It can be the beginning of everything unraveling. And here's what we need to understand. This isn't just about carelessness. It's about environmental awareness, something most of us take for granted until it's gone. See, our ability to move through a room, to judge distance, to know where our feet are without looking, that's called proprioception. It's our sixth sense, the one that tells us how far the ground is, how close the chair is, where our balance sits without us having to think. And as we age, that sense fades, slowly, quietly, until one day, a simple hallway becomes an obstacle course. Vision plays a role too. Older eyes don't adjust to light the way they used to. That cozy, dim living room that feels so familiar, to an aging parent, it's now a maze of shadows. Depth perception weakens, edges blur, steps become harder to judge. Even hearing can be part of the problem, because when you can't hear your own footsteps, or the creak of a floorboard. You lose part of your body's ability to self-correct. And yet, what do we often say? She's just clumsy. It's just that old house. Or the one that hurts the most. They're just not being careful. But this isn't about caution. It's about capacity. Their senses are changing. Their brain is trying to keep up. And every rug, every step, every corner of the home becomes part of the battlefield. So what do? You don't wait for the fall. You act now. Start by walking through the house with new eyes. Their eyes. Where are the shadows? The uneven floors? The slippery tiles? Remove rugs or tape them down. Install grab bars near toilets and showers. Anywhere standing feels vulnerable. Improve lighting. Not just overhead. Think nightlights in hallways, lamps in dark corners, brighter bulbs in rooms they move through most. Light equals safety. Check vision. Check hearing. And don't settle for they said it was fine. Push for thorough exams. Advocate. And most of all, create a space where they feel safe, not stubborn. Where changes aren't seen as taking control away, but giving freedom back. Because nothing steals independence faster than a bad fall. Nothing shortens a life more quietly than an untreated fracture, a head injury, a slow, painful recovery that doesn't quite restore what was lost. And sometimes, it's not the fall that does the damage. It's the fear afterward. The fear that makes them stop walking, stop engaging, stop trusting their own body. But you can prevent that. You can create an environment where their body can still move freely, where every step isn't a gamble. Because in the end, health isn't just about the body. It's about the world we move through and the love we put into making that world safe. So now we've reached the part of the journey that's the hardest. Not because it's complex, but because it's emotional. You've heard the 5 hidden reasons. You know what to look for now. But what do you do with that knowledge? Let's talk about the emotional side of this. The part that stings and the part that heals. I know this isn't easy because seeing someone you love change like this, bit by bit, day by day, it hurts. It's not like flipping a switch. It's like watching the tide go out. And even though the waves keep moving, you can feel something slipping away. You remember who they were, how strong they used to be, how sharp, how full of life. And now, you catch yourself staring at them a little longer, wondering, worrying, is this just aging or something more? That question stays with you, even when you're not thinking about it. In the quiet moments, when you're driving, folding laundry, tucking your kids in, and the worst part, you feel helpless. But I want you to hear this, and I mean it with all my heart. You are not powerless. You're not late. You're not failing them. You're waking up. You're starting to see what most people never even notice. Because now, you know what to look for. You know the signs, the subtle ones, the silent ones, the ones that whisper before they scream. And that changes everything. You're not just reacting anymore. You're watching with insight. You're listening with understanding. You're caring with foresight. And that kind of awareness, that's love at its most powerful. So here's what I want you to do. Something small but brave. If even one of the signs we've talked about today sounds familiar, if someone you love is losing weight, stumbling, forgetting, pulling away from food or the world around them, don't wait. Start a conversation, not an interrogation. A conversation, gentle, honest, loving. Ask how they're feeling, really feeling. Tell them what you've noticed, not to scare them, but to stand beside them. And listen, just listen, because a little awareness today, it might mean years of dignity tomorrow. It might mean a fall that never happens, a decline that slows instead of spirals, a mind that stays connected longer than anyone expected. And more than anything, it might mean they don't feel alone. Because that's what this is all about, isn't it? Not just living longer, but living better, together. This road is not easy. I won't pretend that it is. You'll feel frustrated. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wish things could go back to the way they were. But in those moments, I want you to remember something. You are showing up. You are doing the work that matters. You are the quiet strength behind someone else's fading light. And that is grace. So breathe. Take this knowledge and let it guide you. Because no one ever taught us how to do this. But now, you're learning, and you're not alone. Let's take a moment and bring it all together. We've walked through a lot today. Not just facts, but feelings, fears, truths that are hard to face, and signs that are even harder to see. But now, you see them. To recap, We talked about the 5 hidden health reasons that keep so many older adults from living beyond 80. Not because they're obvious, but because they're not. First, muscle loss, the silent shrink of strength that makes everyday life harder and riskier. Then, heart decline, the breathlessness and fatigue that often get blamed on age, but really point to a heart struggling to keep up. Next, cognitive drift, the repeated stories, the forgotten details, the slow unraveling that's often mistaken for harmless forgetfulness. Then, digestive slowdown, the meals skipped, the weight lost, the nutrients that never make into the bloodstream. And finally, loss of environmental awareness, the falls, the shadows, the spaces that used to feel safe but now betray aging senses. These aren't small things. They're not just what happens when you get old. They're signs, warnings, and most importantly, they're opportunities. Opportunities to notice, to speak up, to step in with love. So now I want to hear from you. Have you seen any of these signs in someone you care about? Maybe it was your dad losing his appetite, or your grandma tripping over the same rug. Maybe it was something that didn't seem like much until now. Share your experience in the comments. I read every one, and I promise you this, you're not the only one going through it, and you never have to go through it alone. If this video helped you see something a little clearer, if it helped you understand your loved one just a little better, then please subscribe to Elderly Care. This is a place for honesty, for healing, for the real, hard conversations about growing old and growing through it. We got more coming, more guidance, more stories, more support for you, so you can keep showing up for the ones who need you most. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for caring in a world that too often looks the other way. Stay kind, stay informed, and remember, every little bit of care helps someone age with dignity. I'll see you in the next video.